Those are my kids. It's my baby. I'm just talking about every night. I don't see us. Every time I see pictures, I don't know how it's being a dad was the best part of my life. So I took it all away.
I think that's the hardest part for us, Chris, is we see those videos, we see that love that you had for your girls. Like, it's obvious to us, and even to us, it's hard for us to understand how a dad who's given piggyback rides and, you know, making snacks and watching princess movies and those kinds of things, how you get to that point, you know?
Like I said, it was just like something else was controlling me that day. I had no control over what I was like to fight back.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our very late edition of What's Wednesday. Who do we have in here? Debbie, new member. Thank you for joining Team Unjustified, Debbie. We appreciate it very much. Miss Mac. Good to see you, Chick Tracy. Megan. Girl, you're going to be so bored. You know all this already. Some of it you might not know, though. I doubt it, but some. Or, hey, we'll just use it as a refresher for you.
We can do what everybody else does, though.
That's right.
It's like you work so damn hard. Honestly, Kimberly will go 2-3 weeks just getting all her receipts and everything ready to go. And then you have these other, you can't call them creators or clip channels, I guess, because all they do is go from, I don't know, video to video, and they don't have to show any proof of what they're doing, but Kimberly does, you know, so I don't know, these clip channels, you got to wonder how they can put out 3 or 4 videos a day. Well, that's because they don't do any research. They just listen to everybody else's stuff, and then they try to spin their own, I don't know, what they think is going on, but usually they're wrong. So, but anywho.
this one, they're really going to like it, because this literally took me 2 weeks to put together. Because I don't know. I very much, there's even more I could have did with it, but I was like, God, I can't, you can't do it all, but I've tried to touch on the main parts,
But that's because it's so sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't have time, y'all. Long story. I've been gone all day. It's just, ran in the door. Anyway, we do need to put out a little disclaimer here on this video or on this live. Of course, it's members. We're doing it public. We'll see how it goes with just the members chat. We're going to try this, but we'll see. But anyway, the disclaimer goes as such. Everyone needs to understand that Dave and I are very, very law and judicial justice system minded. We have both been trained in our line of works that, and even though it's hard as hell sometimes, and we can't always do it, but we do have to try to keep our emotions at bay and look at everything. One thing about a case, if you're not just, if you really follow it, I shouldn't say as a hobby, if you really follow it and want to know the details and the exact truths and whatever you can pull out of it, then you have to do that. And you have to look at every damn thing involved. And people will also come up and say, well, why are you looking at the past? Well, that's part of it. That is actually one of the main parts of an investigation, especially with one where you only have circumstantial. Now, we know Chris is in prison. We know he's got life after life after life after life. Do I think Chris needs to be out? No, I do not. Let's put that straight up front. I am not a pro Chris person. However, I am very pro law and justice for all. That's what I am. And I do try to keep emotions at bay, but you really can't with them little girls. It's almost impossible. It is.
That's one thing about the group too. It's like the groups, no matter what you put in there, if it's a picture of the girls or one of Chris, everybody's right away they jump on Chris and this and that, and same thing with Shanann. But with the girls, they're forgotten that
It's like an
they even
afterthought.
passed.
Yeah,
Right.
they're like an afterthought. And so the thing with this is, please understand, and I know we're going to get it. I have no doubt. I know it's going to happen. Pro Chris. Let me tell you, this ain't a damn thing to do with pro Chris. Chris is an idiot. Period. Plain and simple. He's an idiot, and he's where he needs to be. Right? That's the way I see it. At the same time, the whole investigation and judicial way of handling this case was trash. Plain and simple. But anyway, I'm going to hush while I'm ahead.
Yes.
But again, we're not pro Chris, and we're not pro Shanann either. We are pro justice. Justice for all, which does make it Shanann deserves justice. And I think Chris, just as her family says, she got justice. Chris is in jail for the rest of his life for what he did to her. And do I think he did that to her? You damn right I do. So he's where he needs to be.
And he'll stay there too. So
yeah. There you go, Megan. That's exactly what I mean. And I mean, I wouldn't understand a lot of this either. But when you are in the line of work that we do, it's weird. Your mind's just, I guess, trained to think on a different level. I don't know how else to say it. Yeah. Okay. So we've got together, this is going to be a two-parter. I think Dave's said that. This is going to be a two-parter because Dave's got to get up early and go to the doctor. I've been up all day, and it's been a crazy day around here. And we had to get started late because I was so late getting home. But so this is going to have to be a two-parter. We're going to be here an hour or so tonight, and then we're going to finish it up tomorrow night. We're going to get started earlier tomorrow night, hopefully at around 8, 9, hopefully more closer to 8. So, all right,
well,
Dave.
with it too, it's a lot to digest. No, it's just that it's a lot to digest. So
it is, and a lot of you.
Biggest things is if you have to listen, you can't go, be playing Tetris in the background. Because some of the things that are being said, it is old stuff, but it will be new to some people.
Yeah, and even though it's old stuff, even me re-putting it together, it was like, wow, how the hell did I not kind of let that register a little deeper when I was looking into this at the very start? Damn, I didn't even pick up on it then. But you know what? Hindsight's 20/20. So when you know the case completely, as most all of us do now, looking back at this hindsight stuff, it's like, damn, if we would have saw that then, but
well, guaranteed these clip channels will be playing it. So
oh, absolutely, for sure. Max says, does the news about the DNA expert corruption in Weld County affect the case? You know what? I think it's highly likely because that's mentioned in here. Might be in part 2, but it's damn sure mentioned, and not the corruption now. The DNA's mentioned. So it damn sure could. It absolutely could.
That was 2 different DNA labs too. So it's I can't remember which one it was that the stuff was sent to of Chris's. But one has absolutely nothing to do with Rourke. It's just that because it's in his district, he has to oversee it. So with the investigation, but then with a crooked DA, who knows what he's not going to find, right?
Oh yeah, and it definitely goes into the year.
Yeah.
You know, it would hit 2018 would have been part of that problem. So absolutely. I'll tell you what, if I was over that investigation.
Oh no, you're cut out.
If I was over that investigation, I promise you it would. Just saying. I wished I was over it, but or not even over it, just a part of it. Because if I was, it would damn sure be pulled into it. Okay, y'all. So let's get started on these clips, and we'll be stopping sporadically in between them and talk about them and all that stuff. Okay. Let's see if I can pull it up. Hey, that'd be great. That would be great. A whole lot of things would change. Okay, y'all, on this one, this is why we started this one off here. This is the 9 a.m. call that Nicole Atkinson called in to the police department. We don't have any kind of recording of this. This is the only thing that's in the discovery about it. But it happened. It happened because it's in there. And Patricia Cochran said the reason she knew it was 9 a.m. was because she had just gotten to work, and she gets to work at 8 a.m. So there's no way that she could have messed up and put two different calls in there, one for 2 and one for 9. At 9 a.m., you know you've just gotten to work. You're not mistaking it for 2 p.m. or even 1 p.m. However, she was re-questioned about that. Baumover was like, you know, we looked at this and it's not fitting the timeline, 9 a.m. call. And she said, well, I know it was 9 a.m. because I just had gotten to work. And he's like, well, there's no way. And so he went to her 2 or 3 times, and she finally said, okay, maybe I was wrong about the time. Whatever. And he put that in the discovery, and that is the last you hear of it. However, I fully believe that the 9 a.m. call did happen, just as Patricia said it did. Dave, you want to say anything about this part?
Well, the whole thing with that whole, how would you put it? It was a 911 call. So that is recorded. Then when they transferred it over to her, that is actually recorded too. So you got 2 recordings. Where are they? You know, why is it that they say, oh, well, you're mistaken, it didn't happen? All they had to do is replay the recordings and it would have been there, unless they're trying to hide their screw up that they didn't go and get Chris to come home at 9 o'clock in the morning and waited till the afternoon before they actually asked him to come home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if
And
anybody wants to say that didn't happen, if you go to later on, that, like, what is it, around 2:30 at 3 o'clock or something? I can't remember. They have Nate, Nick, and NA in the driveway, and you have Nate telling Nick that they were banging on the windows and doors and nobody answered.
well, exactly. As well as, think about this too. Why don't we see Nate's 9 a.m. camera footage? Right?
That's right.
Because it would have picked it up. Ask Nate. He'll tell you it picks up anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was very proud of that fact.
That's where I catch hell all the time, because I have always said that between 8 and 8:30, Nicole
Hey, gathering
Atkinson
place.
went through that front door of that house and went in there and then called Sandy. And then she latched that front door so that nobody would know that she was in the house. Meanwhile, she took Shanann's purse and she took Shanann's cell phone. So she had to phone Sandy to let Sandy know that nobody was in the house, so that Sandy was calling the school at 8 o'clock in the morning saying, hey, the girl's there.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So.
Well, this too, Dave, gets me in the discovery. After reviewing the GPS data, that is when they wanted to talk to her again, because they had found new information.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? It was never put in the discovery.
Nope.
What was that new information? And if he even asked her about it in her interview, is it redacted? Is it edited? Because it says right here, this is why he wanted to talk to her again. And then when he said after he reviewed this GPS data, then she says repeatedly, is she going to be charged with crime? Now, this is doing like real life investigative skills. Like, this is exactly how I would do it. I would literally look at the reviewing the GPS data, and that's when she started tripping out about getting charged with a crime. And then her husband's in the background yelling that she's not going back up there. Now, when you put those 3 together, it's saying something, right? It's on you to decide what it's saying, right? Unless we had the GPS data, which we don't. But what was in the data, and which GPS data? Was it a watch? Was it a phone? What was it?
That's with the 360 crap too. They let Nicole go and take screenshots and send it to him, so she could have cherry picked whatever she wanted to send them. But the whole thing with that is the 360 doesn't come into effect until after she left the house and went and picked up Nick and Madison.
Well, this doesn't say 360.
No, but I'm talking as when they bring the 360 into it.
Right. Well, that's later. That's after the interview. But okay, which GPS data here is he talking about? We know that they took her phone, several other things. To her phone, they didn't get her watch at that minute. I don't think. Maybe they did. But once they reviewed that data, they wanted to talk to her. I don't know. Just makes you wonder. And it also makes you wonder why she was so worried about going to jail and getting charged with some kind of crime after they reviewed that data.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you go to her taking the cell phone, it would have showed that the car or the cell went for a car ride.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. What is
So
it? I mean, we can speculate, but we will catch moral hell for it. But in my mind, I've got a damn good possibility of that, so. But anyway.
But if you put that all together, though, like with Sandy calling the school, and then what was it, at 9 o'clock, NA calls 911, and at 9:10, there's a Vivint alert saying that the garage door, so it all falls in line that she was in that house. And
I think so too. And I'm not sitting here trying to put down NA or anything like that. So before anybody that's watching or rewatches this, understand we're not.
Nope.
But we're looking into the case through the discovery, interviews, things like that, like we were told we could do. And that's what we're doing. And if this doesn't raise questions, then I don't know what enforcement agency and somebody's working for that this doesn't raise questions. I mean, just saying.
That's the same thing as the Ring doorbell camera too. Why is it took 6 months for Rourke to give the footage that he did, and then anything after that they said it's not in the interest of the public? Is it because they saw people going in and out that front door, or what?
Oh, exactly, yeah. And that's fact. I didn't know that. I didn't know NA lived in Tennessee. I knew I heard Christina was going to Florida, but I didn't know that about NA. Dang. I guess she's my neighbor now. Exactly. Everybody needs to be questioned about inconsistencies. I mean, that's just how it works, or it's supposed to work. That's craziness, because what do you think Martha Stewart went to prison for? Lying to the FBI. That's why she went, lying to the FBI.
But when you have the FBI lying, what do you do then?
Right. Yeah, I'm with you there too, Tracy. I mean, all signs point to it. And if any of us was investigating this case and we would have been part of the investigation team, then we would have questioned the hell out of all that, especially that 9 a.m. call and just everything. Like, especially after Chris's Wisconsin interview, because he don't know shit in it. I mean, he's like, oh, I don't know. Well, I think so. Well, it should have been. It's just like, what's up, Chris? Are you not remembering your lines well enough? Because that's literally what it sounds like to me. So, all right, let me mute and start this again, y'all. But we knew we'd have to talk on this one a sec, because some people may not, know about this 9 a.m. call.
County Communications, this is Stacy. Hi, Stacy. My name's Nicole, and I'm calling because I'm concerned about a friend of mine. I dropped her off at her house at 2 in the morning last night because we were out of town together, and we were on the way back from the airport, and she had issues, and she's pregnant. And I haven't been able to get a hold of her this morning, and I've gone to her house, and her car's there, and stuff like that, but she won't answer the door, she won't answer phone calls, she won't answer text messages. And I'm just really, really concerned. And she had a doctor's appointment this morning, and she didn't go to it. And I don't know what to do. I called him and talked to him, and he said that she went on a play date with her other two daughters. But, like, if she went on a play date, they're both in car seats. Why would she not take a car?
Are you police looking for a pregnant Frederick woman and her two children who have seemingly vanished without a trace?
Shannon Watts and her two young daughters have not been seen since early yesterday morning.
The K-9 unit was all over this area, and the reason why they were here was because this was the last place that she was seen, according to her husband. Now, here's some of the video that we got of that K-9 unit in this area. They were searching the whole neighborhood and the whole perimeter of this neighborhood, but investigators had the K-9 units surface the entire area to try and get any type of scent of Christopher Watts' family. But according to her husband, Christopher, Shanann came home around 2 in the morning on Monday after a business trip. He says he saw her before he left work around 5 in the morning, but when he came home, she was gone. We asked Chris if there was anything that happened between them that could have led her to leave on her own.
Did you guys get into an argument before she left?
It wasn't like an argument. We had an emotional conversation, but I'll leave it at that. But I just want them back. I just want them to come back. And
well, police say that there is no leads as of right now. They are still looking into everything and trying to find some type of scent. Now, according to the family and the friends, they say that Shanann left her purse, her phone, and her keys here. She was last dropped off at home at 2 in the morning by one of her co-workers after a business trip. Now, police are asking for anyone with any type of information to come forward.
So we just started interviewing people, and we went pretty late into the night. And that's when Special Agent Coder conducted his first interview with Chris Watts. He created a bond with Chris very quickly that he knew Chris would not want to disappoint him in any way. We were getting flooded with tips of sightings of Shanann and the girls. And so we were bringing those into Chris and saying, hey, does this look like your wife and your children? So I do feel like he felt like he was part of our team.
Was that a mind game?
I'm not going to talk about that. I don't know if I should say this, but Chris, while he was talking to Special Agent Coder, made a lot of movements towards his neck area. Special Agent Coder actually came out of the room and he may have strangled her.
Legally, we can't hold it. We didn't know if the girls were alive or dead. We didn't know specifics that would lead us to say we have probable cause to arrest him, put handcuffs on.
We had set up the polygraph and we talked about what was going to happen. You know, whether Chris passed, whether Chris failed, what was our strategy. I conduct all my polygraphs the same. I'm very bubbly. I find it very easy to maintain rapport with someone. I need Chris to know that I was his friend, I was there to listen, and I was there to hear his story. So right before the polygraph, I tell Chris, right now, there's only one person in this room that knows what the truth is. And in about 5 minutes, there's going to be 2 of us. So that's where we'll start. We call it snapping a knot in their ass. Because that's what we do right before the polygraph. Because we want them to know it's over. Whatever you're saying is, you better be truthful, and we're going to find out. The type of testing format that I used, we would consider someone to be deceptive if they were a -4 and below. Chris Watts scored -8. Special Agent Coder and I both wanted to go back in there and confront him with his deception. He had an opportunity to look through text messages ahead of time, and I felt like he was very submissive to females, so I felt like I'm going to use that to my advantage. He said I had an affair. I felt like he was, maybe this piece of information will appease, throwing out different things to him about what could have happened. Maybe Shanann had done something to the girls, and his eyes immediately lit up. And I thought to myself, I'm like, this is the one he wants to go with. And it was very shortly after that he said, I want to talk to my dad.
There was certainly a concern that if we let Dad come into that interview room, he would say, hey, it's time for you to get an attorney.
We were very concerned, but at that point, it was really a judgment call. There was a very big sense of relief, but at the same time, I'm like, he went with the theme that I had given him about Shanann doing something to the girls. We needed to try and get him to actually tell us what really happened. We brought that drone picture into the room with us. I did not believe for 1 second that Shanann had done something to her girls. In a way, I felt like I failed because we didn't actually get to the actual truth.
There was never a point in time when I think any of us thought that she had a hand in what happened to Shanann and the girls. She may have very well have been the motive in the defendant's mind, but she had no role.
Why would you? Why about your family to be with me?
We needed the truth to come out, and we felt like we had left Chris with such a good rapport that we felt like he would talk to us again.
This iteration was that Shanann had come home. They had this emotional conversation, at which point he disclosed for the first time to her that he was having an affair.
In Wisconsin was actually way more horrific than I had even let my brain imagine.
My first reaction was one of absolute horror. I couldn't wrap my brain around what I just heard.
You're out there, just come back. Somebody has her. Just please bring her back.
Breaking new details in the last few minutes about the man.
I can't stand Tammy. I literally cannot stand her.
FBI couldn't either at the end. That's why they stopped sharing stuff with her. She had a big mouth.
Yeah, well, not only that, she just makes me sick. She laughs at the most inappropriate times. In that Wisconsin interview, listen, I see it every damn day. People, especially on this video I just cleaned up, people jumping other people when they say, you know, her laughing is uncalled for. And then these other people will come back and say, well, don't you know she's got a reason they do that to make him talk? Let me tell you, no, that you do try to make them comfortable, and you do try to, you know, get on their good side. That's a fact. But no, all the laughing and all that stuff, that's very unprofessional. So the people that's throwing that out there saying that that's trying to make Chris comfortable, no, absolutely not. No, that's not part of training and interrogation. I promise you that. Not at all. You are supposed to act like that you understand them, you know. I get it. I get it. I've been there. And maybe bounce off some kind of little story to them. But all this laughing and all this, no, that's extremely unprofessional. And I can't stand Tammy. And yeah, so I seen some people out there talking about Tammy, and I just had to put my 2 cents in it. I can't stand her. Cannot. And she was even laughing in court, like at the sentencing. Like, what is up with her?
It's like a schoolgirl laugh too.
It is. It's funny you say that, Chris. I know.
Because
I
if you
know,
look at
right?
her eyes, she never took her eyes off when he took his shirt off and they were taking pictures of him.
Yes. Yes.
Like
It
you had
does
to throw
seem.
a bucket of cold water on her.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm glad that, and I know I'll probably catch hell for saying that, but I can't help it. Let me tell you, I've had interrogation training. And I'll promise you, the way Tammy's doing it is not the way it's supposed to be done.
Not
Yes,
at all.
you are supposed to be their friend. Yes, you are this, that, and the other. And if he tells you his kids, say, for example, my kids get on my nerves so bad, I just lose control. Okay, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to conjure up some shit lie and be like, I get it, man. My kids sometime, you know, and that's how it's supposed to go. You're not supposed to sit there and laugh and rub them on. I mean, you might pat them on the back or something. Yeah, I mean, but that rubbing, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't give them a massage.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And yeah, that's what you do. You just converse with them like you're sitting there talking to an old friend. That's what you do. You don't sit there and low-key flirt with them.
No. Hi, Becky Boo.
Becky, hey everyone. Tulip. I know lots of came in.
Oh, Gathering Place.
Gathering Place. Yeah, I think I saw her earlier. Yeah. Okay, y'all. Let me get back to it. I just had to say that about Tammy because I'm not a fan of Tammy at all. I think Coder is very professional. I do. I just don't think that Coder, in my opinion, and I know it was the heat of the moment, and sometimes you don't always think, but there was a lot of questions that he gave answers to that the answers needed a question back. But, you know, I mean, that happens. But Tammy's, and not, yeah, Coder. What's his name? Kovac. Oh, God. I don't know what school he went to.
Hi, Tangerine.
I don't know where he got his training, but yeah, that's all I'm saying.
And who spoke to our cameras, pleading for his wife's safe return.
I'm just concerned and understand if you're hearing this or you're out there. Please let somebody know you're okay.
What we're learning about the pregnant mother's whereabouts and who may be responsible for her disappearance.
We have breaking new details in just the last few minutes. Investigates is learning new details about the case of that missing pregnant mother.
We want to bring in Denver 7 investigative reporter Jace Larson, who's learning from top sources more about this investigation and the husband's involvement. Jace?
Tonight, we have learned from 2 law enforcement sources who are close to the investigation. They tell me that this husband has confessed to killing his family. And
did you hear that? Did you hear that? He confessed to killing his family. He hadn't even been arrested yet, according to Rourke. Not at this time. You see that? 10:01.
Right.
Rourke says in the interview that he was arrested at about 11:30, and we know he was. We know he was because we saw the clock. I even did a little video on that, right? Remember? So he was arrested 11:30, 12 o'clock. This is 10:01. Okay? And they're already throwing it out there that he's confessed to killing his whole family. Now tell me, that isn't a hell of a way to taint a jury. That's wrong.
That goes back to FBI not saying anything to Tammy Lee anymore either, because she was blabbing all over the place and giving out misinformation too. So,
and yeah, and what gets me even more than that, when you're talking about hiding in the bushes to give your information and get your breaking spot, this dude is literally hiding in the bushes saying this, right? He is literally hiding in the bushes.
Welcome to Unjustified.
we have learned from 2 law enforcement sources who are close to the investigation. They tell me that this husband has confessed to killing his family and he is now detained. We have also learned some other information here. Law enforcement believes they know where the bodies are buried and they are in the process right now of trying to recover those bodies. Police officers and other officials working on this investigation are not releasing much more information, but my colleague Jacqueline Allen is live at the scene right now where she is learning some new details.
Police are still here tonight at the house watching. Now, we just talked to Chris Watts yesterday, and the way he acted, the bizarre things he had to say, that raised red flags for police and for basically anyone who saw that interview.
If they're not safe right now, that's what's tearing me apart, because if they are safe, they're coming back. But if they're not, this has got to stop. Like, somebody has to come forward.
Chilling to see those smiles and to hear that now, especially because neighbors, friends, family, they say they seem like a happy family. Even Shannon recently posted a video on Facebook detailing their entire relationship and saying Chris had stuck with her through health challenges from the very start.
He went to my colonoscopy. I tortured him. I rejected him. I pushed him away time and time and time again. He knew me at my worst, and he accepted me. 8 years later, we have 2 kids. We live in Colorado, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me.
So what changed tonight, we do not know, but we do know that she was gone this summer, spent 6 weeks with her family in North Carolina, recently came back after a work trip. This is not the ending that anyone wanted in this story.
Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went. And it's just earth shattering. I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from. Nothing.
So at this point, this interview was done before he allegedly confessed to these murders. Is that right?
Right. So the way this all worked out, the missing persons report comes in, this interview happens, and then the next day, the police announce at night that they've made an arrest.
Yeah, we haven't heard that from the police, and it seems like there was some conflicting information, like maybe he hadn't confessed to the police, but had told friends and family, and then friends and family may have come to the police. So it's a little bit confusing about how the police officers figured out that.
Did y'all catch that? I thought that was very interesting. He said they don't know how they did it and this, that, and the other, but they got it because friends or family. And yeah, I thought that was pretty damn interesting, that part. And this guy, what he says is very interesting as well. And this guy actually testifies in many, many murder trials. So he's very good at what he does.
To the police, but had told friends and family, and then friends and family may have come to the police. So it's a little bit confusing about how the police officers figured out that he should be arrested. But and we have to assume that everyone is innocent unless they're proven guilty in a court of law. But let's also assume for a minute here that he actually did it and he did confess to it, and then later on has led the police to the bodies where he hid the bodies. So he is lying through his teeth right here about all of this. Maybe he texted, maybe he didn't. He's worried about the kids. But he knows what happened here. So he comes across as a person who that genuinely is concerned about the whereabouts of his wife and kids. That he doesn't look suspicious. What jumps out, honestly, is that if he actually did it, how good he is at lying about it. Like he has thought through all of this. He's not stumbling over his words. He's not looking around and looking nervous.
Now, we sure haven't heard that, have we? Like, the only thing we have ever heard from this porch interview is everybody knew he was lying, except the people that actually knew him, which was David Cologne, his friend Mark. Just the people that knows him says, no, that's just Chris. But we all saw somebody, or I'm not necessarily going to say me so much, because I know so many people that have that like nervous laugh kind of thing. But the majority said that as soon as they watched that porch interview, they knew he was lying. Well, here we have a professional that testifies in murder trials. And he's saying that he seems like the most legit and truthful guy that's pretty much ever been on the planet. And I found that to be, wow, that really kind of took me back a few. But you heard it. I mean, you heard it.
He doesn't look, incredibly sad, like he's, losing control of his emotions or anything like that. But he looks appropriately distressed. And so if he really did it and made it through this interview looking this distressed and being able to pretend like he didn't do it, that's pretty unusual.
So, yeah, it's interesting. Do you want to keep rolling?
Sure.
But not to respond to her people, though, that was not like her.
You stop it right there.
Sure.
I'm curious what you think about that. That he's saying, if she wasn't going to respond to me, that's one thing. But if she wasn't going to respond to her people, wouldn't he be one of her people?
Again, I'm not so sure about that. Like because it's not necessarily that uncommon for for a husband and wife to maybe ignore a text message that you get from your significant other in the middle of the day because you're really busy.
More minutes in.
Totally
Have you noticed anything else? A few more minutes in.
He's thought through this a lot. So thinking if he did this, he has really thought about this a lot, what his alibi would be. Do
you want to keep going?
Sure.
Chris, you've got a beautiful family, and it looks like you all love each other very much. What went through your mind the minute kind of you're like something's wrong?
It's like I was trying to get home as fast as I can. I was blowing through stoplights. I was blowing through everything, just trying to get home as fast as I can because none of this made sense. If she's vanished, like I want her back so bad. I want those kids back so bad.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the hard part. Your first thought is, where are they? I want them back.
So he was just asked, you're going through this traumatic ordeal and people may start thinking you did it. And what is your response to that? And his response was basically, people can think whatever they want. I just want my wife and kids back. It's so hard to be in this house without them. So again, couching this in terms of if he actually did it, and then he's asked that question. He nailed that answer. That is the kind of answer that somebody would give who isn't guilty. I'm not sure how it's possible, honestly, to pull that off. That would be really difficult to do if you're having to think through all of that on your feet as you're being asked questions in real time, and to make it feel that believable. That's very difficult to do. Most people can't pull that off very well.
What's happening there? We're going to get an update now on the case. Let's listen in.
District Attorney Michael Rourke, Colorado Bureau of Investigation Director John Camper, Federal Bureau of Investigation Special Agent in Charge, Calvin Shivers. And thank you all again. Finally, in the late hours of Wednesday evening, the husband, Chris Watts, was taken into custody and was transported to the Weld County Jail just after 11:30 p.m. last night. He is currently scheduled for a bond hearing later today.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Michael Rourke. I'm the Weld County District Attorney. And I hope that you all understand this investigation is still ongoing. We are at the very preliminary stages of this investigation. And so as a result of that, we're going to be constrained in the types of questions that we can answer. And I hope that you all understand that at this point. I wanted to address the process and the procedure that's going to occur from this point forward. After the suspect was arrested last night, this case has been formally referred to my office for determination of the appropriate formal charges that will be filed against the suspect. As Sergeant Albert indicated, the suspect has a bond hearing this afternoon at 2:30 in Division 5 at the Weld County Courthouse. Following that, we will be given a deadline by which we need to file formal charges. That will be sometime Monday afternoon, and we will make a determination on charges between now and then. That determination will be based upon the information that we have at this point as a result of the cooperation by Frederick Police Department, by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I truly want to thank all of those partners for their efforts. I'm going to turn it over to the CBI director for a few comments. And like I said, we will answer questions at the end, but please understand two things. Number one, the suspect at this point is presumed innocent until otherwise proven guilty in a court of law. And number two, I'm constrained ethically as to what I can say, what I can answer at this point. Director.
Thanks. Hi, I'm John Camper, Director of the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. We join with Chief Norris, the Frederick PD, and really the entire town of Frederick in expressing our sorrow for the loss of Shanann Watts, Bella, and Celeste. As horrible as this outcome is, our role now is to do everything that we can to determine exactly what occurred and assist in filing a thorough case with the 19th Judicial District investigating this case. And I also might add that the collaboration and cooperation by Anadarko, which, as you know, is somewhat involved in this as well, has also been outstanding. They've been nothing but cooperative in helping us with this investigation as well. So,
police department there, along with investigators from the state, even the federal government, leaving as they wrap up a news conference. This is really the first information that we've heard officially from authorities in the news conference since this move was made to arrest the husband of Shanann Watts and her two children, Bella, 3, Celeste, 4 years old. All of them believed dead by detectives right now, and they are holding Christopher Watts, 33 years old, in the Weld County Jail as they try to figure out what happened here. This is the mugshot that came out this morning after the arrest was made last night. They say that he did confess. That was conveyed to us by the family of Shanann Watts. Authorities this morning not wanting to reveal their hand in their investigation, how they found out, what they found out, how they know. But they did say that they have found the body of what they believe is that of Shanann Watts. They say they do believe they know where the children are. Recovery efforts are in progress, but they did not share in that news conference.
Did y'all see what I did there? Did you see what I did there, Dave?
Yes.
Oh man, how much trouble am I going to get into for that one? I was like, oh God. Let's see.
They found out how they know, but they did say that they have found the body of what they believe is that of Shanann Watts. They say they do believe they know where the children are. Recovery efforts are in progress, but they did not share in that news conference there where the body of the mother was found, nor where they believe the bodies of the children may be. An incredible tragedy in this lovely home in Frederick, and they have these beautiful pictures that we've seen of the family. We're looking at some of the video of evidence being removed from that home, and we've seen that over the past couple of days here, authorities working inside that home. And it was yesterday, apparently, when this break came through, and the information that just really is shocking all of Colorado right now. This mother and two beautiful children apparently killed at the hands of the husband. Now, there are no formal charges filed yet. Let me explain to you how that works, because there's been some mistakes in reporting that I've seen around some news stations this morning. He's not charged yet. You're not charged until you go to court and those charges are brought against you, but you can be arrested in suspicion of. And so he is currently in jail, 3 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of tampering with evidence are potentially what Christopher Watts will face. There will be a bond hearing this afternoon. That will occur at 2:30. And then the district attorney, Rourke, as you said, has until probably Monday. The date will be set by the court this afternoon until Monday to make a decision on charging. So that's what we will see. So wrapping up this news conference, we now know, we have confirmed, of course, the worst of it from authorities today with this announcement of the arrest of Christopher Watts. And they do believe that the children are dead along with the mother. The body of the mother, they believe, almost certainly recovered. They did recover a body they believe is that of Shanann Watts.
I'll tell you that at this point, the court is not authorizing any bail. So, Mr. Watts, I'm going to issue a protection order pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes 18-1-1001. It's going to state that you not harass, molest, intimidate, retaliate against any witness involved in this case. Do you understand that? With regard to the motion for a protective order, essentially for nobody to speak to Mr. Watts other than his attorneys and investigators and support staff, I'm assuming there's no.
Okay, now the reason I put this little note down here, y'all, is because I have seen so many times people say, well, Chris didn't talk to his parents, or Chris didn't call his parents because Chris didn't want to. They was going to let him out on his jail logs and use the phone, but he refused to use the phone. Well, as you just heard, the judge just gag ordered him that he is not allowed to speak to anybody until he goes to court at all. He's not allowed to. I mean, he is literally placed on this gag order. And I think obviously many people really didn't catch that part of his first court appearance. Now, he hasn't even been arrested. I put 12 hours. It's more like probably, I don't know, 12, 14 hours that he's been arrested. But I still thought that it was crucial that I add that there so maybe that one rumor will stop, that he didn't want to talk to his parents and he didn't want to talk to anybody else because he couldn't. And I know in the discovery, it does say on the jail logs that the guards fill out that they offered him phone time and all this and that, and he always refused it. Well, there was a reason he was refusing it, because he couldn't talk. You know, and I thought that was pretty important to put there, because I promise you, you're going to see it. Well, he didn't want to talk to his parents. He didn't want to call them. He didn't want to hear what they say. Well, that's not true. He wasn't allowed to.
Objection to that?
Correct.
You'll put one person on notice on that issue?
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing from the prosecution.
Nothing from the defense, thanks. Okay. All right, we'll see you next Tuesday at 10 o'clock or Monday.
I'm not sure, Charlie, what would be going on. I'm pretty damn sure nobody's deleting it.
It's not us that's doing it. I've been watching the chat.
It's got to be YouTube. It's got to be YouTube. They do. There's some words. I don't know what the question is, but there's some like just weird words. They just won't even let come through. It'll be like a shadow ban on it, and we don't see it.
That and you can't go live for 10 minutes and they're mass falsely reporting you too.
Oh, so, yeah, definitely.
It's hard to say, but I can guarantee nobody's been deleting any messages whatsoever.
No, I bet it's just one word, maybe in her question, and it's probably just a word that is not even important, but YouTube has a shadow ban on it for whatever reason. I'm sorry.
And if it's something iffy that we have flagged, then we would be able to see it. And we're not seeing anything at all. So
no, whatever it is, it has got to have that shadow ban on it. And that's terrible. And it makes me so mad when that happens, because many times, even in the comment section, people comes at me, why are you deleting? I'm not. I'm not. I'm literally not. It's got to be, the shadow ban or whatever you call it. But I'm sorry.
People of the state of Colorado versus Christopher Lee Watts. So you do not need to make any statements. Any statements you make can be used against you. Do you understand? At this point, I have denied your right to bail, given the charges. Mr. Watts will explain to you what you have been formally charged with and what the possible penalties are. Count 1 alleges that on or about August 13th, 2018, Christopher Lee Watts caused the death of Shanna Watts, and that crime is classified as murder in the first degree, a class 1 felony. Do you understand? Count 2 alleges murder in the first degree, also a class 1 felony, caused the death of Bella. Do you understand? Count 3 alleges murder in the first degree, a class 1 felony, caused the death of Celeste Watts. Do you understand? Count 4 alleges murder in the first degree, a class 1 felony, caused the death of Bella Watts, a child who had not yet attained 12 years of age, and the defendant was in a position of trust with respect to the victim. Do you understand? Count 5 alleges murder in the first degree, a class 1 felony. Christopher Lee Watts unlawfully, feloniously, and knowingly caused the death of Celeste Watts, a child who had not yet attained 12 years of age, and the defendant was in a position of trust. Do you understand? With regard to these first 5 counts, the minimum sentence that the court could impose if convicted is life imprisonment in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and the maximum death sentence is death. Do you understand? Count 6 alleges a Class 2 felony of unlawful termination of pregnancy in the first degree. Further, the woman died as a result of the unlawful termination of the pregnancy. Do you understand? Sir. Count 7 alleges tampering with a deceased human body, a Class 3 felony. Do you understand? Sir. Count 8 alleges also tampering with a deceased human body, a Class 3 felony. And finally, count 9 alleges tampering with a deceased human body, a Class 3 felony. With regard to counts 7, 8, and 9, those Class 3 felonies carry a presumptive range of 4 to 12 years in the Colorado Department of Corrections. Watts is knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily waiving his right to have a preliminary hearing within 35 days. Agreed? Yes.
They say that defending a suspect who police say has confessed is not impossible, because what will be at issue here is whether Watts had time to think about what he was allegedly doing. To say that no defense lawyer wants his client talking to us, the media, or police. But David Beller of Wrecked Cornfeld says when a suspect confesses to detectives, defense attorneys will first check to see if the confession was legal.
If he wasn't in custody, he wasn't required to have been read his rights. At the same time, if he was read his rights and he was in custody, then it's probably a legally obtained confession.
But confession alone is not enough, Beller says. He is not part of Watts' defense.
We know if the confession is real, who committed certain acts. What we don't know is the why.
That's important if a jury or a judge is asked to decide whether Watts committed first or second degree murder.
First degree murder is knowingly or intentionally and after deliberation, after some passage of time. Second degree murder is a sudden heat of passion. Some emotion took over and an individual committed a crime without having had a moment to think about what was occurring. So what somebody is thinking when they commit a crime is just as important to proving them guilty as what they physically did.
When it comes to possible punishments, the DA told me last week that the decision on the death penalty is still a long ways off. Beller says don't count on the DA asking for the death penalty. Only 3 people are on death row in Colorado right now.
It's extraordinarily unusual and rare that a prosecutor would bring death charges for several reasons. 1, it's extraordinarily expensive to the public. And number 2, the public just doesn't really have the appetite for it anymore.
Today, prosecutors filed a motion requesting fingerprints, cheek swabs, and hand pictures from Chris Watts. They believe Watts is responsible for all 3 deaths. Remember, the defense claimed that Watts killed his wife, Shanann, after watching her strangle their daughters, Bella and Celeste. Also today, prosecutors responded after attorneys for Chris Watts accused them of leaking information about the case to the public. Watts' lawyers have asked the court to open an investigation. Today, the prosecution, though, fired back, saying much of the publicity was generated by Chris Watts himself. The prosecution says an investigation into leaked information is an unreasonable request that would cause major staffing and funding issues. Now, we recently spoke with DA George Brockler before all of this information came out. He's prosecuted several high-profile cases before, including the Aurora Theater trial.
Anytime there is hyper media scrutiny on a case, and especially when it's long-term, as I expect this one to be, you guys will be at every court appearance, as my guest, reporting on it. You run the risk that you will not have a jury pool that can sit there and be unbiased in its judgment of the facts that's presented to it because of that media attention.
Meanwhile, the attorneys in the Watts case will meet tomorrow to discuss all of these recent motions.
And this evening, I'd like to talk to you about an update in the Christopher Watts case. What has come about late Friday afternoon on November 2nd at approximately 4:20 p.m., the district attorney filed a notice of a status hearing. What's interesting about this is that this matter already had a status hearing set on the 19th of November. Now, I can tell you, I have absolutely no idea exactly what this is regarding. This date had to have been cleared with all of the parties involved in the case, and it's set for some reason. And I can tell you, as a practicing attorney, when we add a case on like this, oftentimes it is set for a change of plea. Somebody wants to enter a plea. Is this what this is set for? I have no idea. So it'll be curious to see if maybe the DAs have told Mr. Watts and his counsel, you know, this is the offer, and maybe he accepted it.
Like, we're not done. We have all these things to do. We didn't examine all the evidence. We didn't interview every witness we needed to. We didn't do all of these things that you would do in a normal investigation because he stopped the clock. And we felt like, in a sense, we didn't finish.
Let's move today. Christopher Watts has pleaded guilty to killing his pregnant wife, Shanann, and 2 young daughters, Bella and Celeste, and their unborn son.
But when Christopher Watts stepped into that courtroom today, he had no emotion walking towards his seat. But as soon as the judge started to speak about his plea agreement, that's when he broke down and started crying. And for all 9 counts that he pleaded guilty to, he was in between cries.
The decision was made about 4 days ago.
Christopher Watts showed up in court today wearing a bulletproof vest. Shanann Watts' family was also there to hear Watts plead guilty to all 9 counts against him.
I think that there was a combination of relief, extraordinary sadness that we ever had to have that conversation in the first place.
As far as Scott goes, I believe that Scott wanted to take his case pro bono, just to be honest. I think he did. But the thing of that whole pro bono thing is Chris would have had to fire his already appointed public pretenders. That's what I like to call them. And we know Chris isn't going to fire anyone. Now, Cindy did call, believe it or not, Cindy and Scott has a pretty damn good relationship. They talked on the phone quite a lot. Scott actually worked this case behind the scenes, and he has a lot to say about it. And I put a lot of it in here for you guys. But hey, Scott is still about that 35C, or he was. Just saying, he really was. So, was you wanting to say anything, Dave?
Moons ago.
Okay. All right. Let me leave it paused. Okay, go ahead.
No. When he was reading out the charges, one of the ones that he said was unlawful termination of a pregnancy that caused her death.
Yes, absolutely. I can put it back there. People didn't hear it, but it was. Do you want me to run it back?
No, it's okay. A lot of people say they put that charge in because there was no actual charge on the books for killing a fetus. But the problem being is that's the charge that they usually give like an illegal abortion clinic when the woman hemorrhages and dies. Okay, so for them to actually put in there that unlawful termination of a pregnancy that caused a woman's death.
That's exactly what it said. Absolutely. And if anybody wants me to run it back, I will. But that is what it said. It caused her death. Sure did. And I know that Dave catches hell about that all the time. But Dave is telling you what the facts and the judge said. And
with that, too, is that her organs were dry. And they had to actually squeeze her spleen in order to draw blood. And like they could have got it from like the eyeball or whatever, but when they say that her organs are dry, that tells me that she did hemorrhage and there was no blood left in her body. But yet if you go to the grave site, there is no blood. And then with her being in rigor in the downward dog position, the yoga position with her butt up in the air, that actually tells me that she was murdered somewhere else and then taken there. And for rigor to set up, that had to have been some kind of a drive, or it could have been at the first place that Chris went to that day, which was a site right next to 319.
Yeah. Charlie, you're going to see, I don't know how much of him you'll get to see tonight before we cut this live off, but we're going to be back tomorrow night. You're going to be seeing and hearing from Scott a lot throughout this that we're doing on this episode of What's Wednesday. This is, a lot of people wouldn't even realize it, but this plea one here and these confessions and all that, there's really a lot to that to take in if you really, deep dive it as a whole. But the way the discovery's put together, you really can't do that unless you actually sit and, like I just did, and take 2 weeks and try to put it all together. And then it makes better sense. But when you're only hearing just a little here and a little there and every so often, then, it just don't all seal together as it would if you're seeing it all combined like we're doing here. And that's how we do all the What's Wednesday shows. We do try to combine all in one topic. So there's a better understanding of it. And contrary to popular beliefs, we do not just throw out any kind of information out there. I can assure you, like I always say, unless we tell you it's our opinion, I promise you, you're not getting anything from this channel except damn straight facts and truth. And as per usual, sometimes it's an unpopular opinion because we are very unbiased. That's just the way it is. And I believe being unbiased is important. You don't want somebody sitting on your jury one day that's not, right? It's important.
That and being called a hate channel because we do bring the truth out and we actually show the truth with receipts. I don't know how we're victim shaming or blaming or anything like that. It's the facts,
Yeah.
So take it for what it's worth.
Exactly. And to be called a hate channel for pulling out, if it's in the discovery and it's in an interview, then it's part of the case. And people will say, well, that's not part of the case. Well, then it shouldn't be in the damn discovery then.
That's the dynamics of the case,
Well, exactly. You have to analyze it all. I mean, when you are really investigating a case, you go all the way back to their high school years, sometimes elementary. So don't tell me that it ain't part of investigation, because it is.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Watt's mother says her son was coerced by his lawyers into pleading guilty to murdering his wife and 2 daughters, and that he should withdraw his pleas and contest the charges, especially the killing of his 2 girls, which she believes he didn't commit. I know he confessed, but he was railroaded into it, Cynthia Watts said Monday in regard to her son's guilty pleas in the murders of his 34-year-old wife, Shanann, and daughters Bella, 4, and Celeste, 3. I want him to take back the plea deal. Cynthia Watts said she believes her son's public defenders were only focused on saving their client from a possible death penalty and did not represent his best interests. She said she believes her son should have received a psychiatric evaluation to determine his mental state when he killed his wife. She added that she believes the story Christopher Watts told to his father, that he killed his wife after he discovered Shanann Watts had strangled their daughters to death. Christopher Watts is represented by the Public Defender's Office in Weld County, which has a policy of not commenting about the cases of its defendants. Weld County District Attorney Michael Rourke could not be reached for comment, but he previously has stated that the defendant's claim that his wife killed their daughters was a flat-out lie. Denver attorney H. Michael Steinberg said that if Christopher Watts wishes to withdraw his guilty plea, it is possible the judge would consider that before his sentencing, which is scheduled for Monday. But he would have to offer a better explanation than just the fact that he changed his mind.
Charlie, there's my email. I just put it up on the banner. I'm sorry that's happening, but there's my email, and you can email me anytime you need to with any question about anything. I'm sorry that's happening.
It's Chris's fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Possibly valid reason would be that Christopher Watts has not received a psychological evaluation, Steinberg said. That would be a significant issue. This case is so high profile, the judge may want to make sure everything was done appropriately, Steinberg said. Christopher Watts, 33, of Frederick, pleaded guilty on November 6 to killing his pregnant wife and 2 daughters. Cynthia Watts said she and her husband repeatedly tried to speak with their son alone, but his attorneys wouldn't let them. On one occasion, when she said, "Chris, you did not do this. Don't confess," she said her son's attorneys ended the conversation immediately. They stonewalled him. "My son deserved to be defended," Cynthia Watts said. She said her son's attorneys told her, "We just want to save his life." But Cynthia Watts said her son deserves much more than that. "If he won't fight for his daggone self, I will."
I just got off the phone with Cynthia Watts a few moments ago. She says the last several months have been a nightmare for her family, and she understands her son Chris is to blame. However, she insists he is not guilty of all that he has admitted to as part of that plea deal.
He went into a rage, and he killed her when he saw her strangling Celeste.
Cindy Watts says she knows her son Chris is guilty of murder, but she does not believe he murdered his 2 kids.
He did kill her, but for the kids, no. It's very difficult. It's very difficult because I just can't imagine my son doing that. He couldn't have done that.
Cindy Watts spoke to us via FaceTime from her home in North Carolina, and she tells us she believes her son was coerced by prosecutors into accepting a plea deal.
Yes, I want to stop it before it's too late. I want to talk to him. We haven't been able to talk to him. I love my son. Yes, I love my son no matter what. And I want to fight for him. And I don't want him to go down for something that he didn't do.
Cindy says she's only been able to speak to her son once since he was arrested. Chris Watts will avoid the death penalty in exchange for that plea deal. Now, Shanann's family just released this statement into our newsroom minutes ago. It said in part, yes, Chris Watts still chose to murder Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, and Nico. That was the unborn child. Chris Watts still chose to dump the bodies of his own family in oil tanks, and Chris Watts still chose to lie about it until he could lie no more. He pled guilty to murdering his family because he is guilty.
My parents still think, like I've told them I pled guilty for a reason.
Right.
And like I told it to them when they had that video phone thing in Colorado the day before, like I pled guilty. Like I plead guilty for a reason. Like I didn't just, I knew other people were watching. I didn't just go in and just say anything. Like they seemed to take it. Like, okay.
What made you do that, Chris? What made you plead guilty?
I didn't want anybody else to. I didn't want them to go through this for 2 or 4 years. I didn't want my attorneys to lie for me for 3 or 4 years. Like they would have done anything I told them to do.
Sure.
That's what I don't see how they can do that. Like, that's what attorneys do. Like they take their defendant and they say, like, what happened? Okay, we'll go with that story. Like I told them everything I just told you guys. And it's just like, they got together. They're like, well, if they ever offered a plea deal, would you ever want to like just plead guilty to? I'm like, yeah, if we can end this, end it. Like I was like in September, I told them that.
Really?
Yeah, but it was way too early, and prosecution was still doing their investigation, still grabbing evidence and all kinds of stuff, and that wasn't even really on the table. So I think it was like around Halloween. I think that's when the prosecution went to Frank and Sandy and Frankie's house, and it's talking like, if we can end this, would you be open to that? And that's when like the whole death penalty and everything, all that conversation happened. And I guess they were surprised that it would just be over.
Yeah.
And
we were all in shock. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that was like,
it's like we were going 100 miles an hour and then we just hit a brick wall. Like that's what it felt like to all of us. So, obviously you had more time to
Yeah, I mean, I
contemplated it.
yeah, I told John and Kate and Sophia and everybody, Amy, hey, if we can just stop this, like, there's like, they're about saying there's like not enough evidence to such this, and that. And I'm just like, no, I'm just like, this needs to end. Like, I don't want people to have to, because for Frank and everybody to have to fly back to Colorado every single time and get reminded of this. Like, I'm sure it's never going to go away, but to actually have to come and talk about it, have other people talk about it, have, all three of you get on the witness stand and say, what they saw and what they've seen, what they heard on tapes and everything like that. It's just like, I don't want people to relive that over and over and over again for years. Like, if I could just end this for everybody, and then like, there's any closure at all, they could, it could start then instead of like 2022. Right. Everything. It's like, I know it'd only get worse for everybody.
So did it have anything to do with you not having the death penalty?
No, like, I mean, honestly, like, when I was sitting in that cell, I felt like I should have died. I mean, I was listening to everybody telling me like, hey, if you do this and this, you can hang yourself in that cell. You could do this and that.
They were like telling you stuff.
Yeah, you could drown yourself in the toilet if you wanted to put your toilet bowl up or something like that. It was they've been there a bunch of times. And like, I was, at one point I was listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I just felt like maybe there's a different purpose for me somewhere. Maybe it's here. I don't know. Like, I prayed to God every day that he would move me away from Colorado. Like, move me away from the DOC there, because I just knew, like, 'cause they were saying there was a hit on me. They said if I was going to a DOC in Colorado, like, I'd last a week and I'd be dead. Because of, like, the gangs and all that kind of stuff.
I'm saddened that I had to meet the roots.
Okay, let me talk about that just a minute. Did you hear where he said they told him there was a hit?
Yes.
Did you get from that what I did?
They're trying to scare the hell out of him. It's like everything that he was saying about Colorado, even with the plea agreement that they had there, the way or where he is right now is more or less Club Med. And I don't think they'll ever move him out of there. But with Colorado, he said that he never got to see anybody. They shut everything down whenever they had to move him. And yet he said that people were telling him how to kill himself and
yes,
all this other stuff, and that there was a hit out on him that he was told. But,
Now listen to that. His attorneys told him there was a hit out on him there, okay? He wasn't allowed to speak to anyone. He could only stay in a 6x9 cell in a paper gown for how many 90-something days. They also told him that when he did go to trial and whatever he was sentenced, he would obviously be going to a Colorado prison where everyone was going to know him. Now, think for just a minute. Everybody think on that in just a minute. This is what his attorneys are telling him, okay? They have to lock down the whole damn jail to walk him to the bathroom. And all of these people are screaming and hollering and wanting to kill him. Are you guys seeing this? Do you see this as a whole?
See, that's
they
one
are trying
thing.
to scare him to death about being where he's at. And there's a hit on him. And you don't want to go to one of these Colorado prisons. And I firmly believe, because Rourke even kind of subtly says it at the end of sentencing, I fully believe that in this plea deal, he was told that he would be transferred to a much safer and, as Dave calls it, Club Med prison. And it basically is. But that was the only way that he would get the opportunity to get moved out of Colorado, was to take that plea deal. And they were letting him know how his life was going to be completely screwed for the most part if he didn't take the plea deal. Do y'all see how all that kind of went together? And a lot of times you might sit and listen to his interview here, and, it's just like we've heard it so much. But until you actually let that part register, everything that he just said in those few minutes that they were telling him, in my opinion, that tells a huge story. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry. Dave, you still there? Oh, okay. I guess he'll be right back, y'all. His thing, StreamYard sucks. But I mean, do y'all heard that? Like, he was literally scared to death to be in Colorado. Why was he so scared? Because of what his attorneys were telling him. The only people he could talk to. Because you just now heard the judge order him. He's not allowed to speak to anyone but his attorneys and Rourke's team. That's it. So obviously they're the one telling him, look, you're going to have hell in a Colorado prison system, and they got a hit out on you here. And you know what? If you want to just get this over with, here's this plea deal, and you'll be able to be moved away from Colorado somewhere where people may know your name, but they're really not going to know. And it's a whole lot easier prison. Either way, Chris, you're going down because you did confess to killing at least one. It's actually not. It's a violation of the rules. See, Cindy wanted Chris to have a mental evaluation. That was never done. Many people will tell you he did have one. No, he didn't. He was arrested, took straight to Weld, put into a segregated 6x9 cell in a paper gown, not allowed to speak to a damn soul until his sentence, and until the day before his sentence. And when they finally allowed his mom, dad, and sister, well, that was before he pled guilty on November the 5th. But anyway, they finally allowed his mom, dad, and sister to go in there and talk to him on the phone. We all know that's out there. We've heard their calls, and they also catch hell for those calls. Look how Jamie's talking about this, that, and the other. They're not even talking about what he did to the kids. Well, see, here's the thing. They weren't allowed to. Before they could walk in there, each one 30 minutes apiece, Ronnie, Jamie, and Cindy, they were told, you don't say a damn word about the plea deal. Not one word, because if you do, we will shut this shit down. If you want to talk to your son, you go in there and just have casual chit chat with him, but there better not be a damn word said about the case or the plea deal, or you're out. And that's a fact. So that is why they caught so much heat from so many people about those phone calls. You'll hear Ronnie sitting there talking about sports. I think Jamie's talking about CC. They thought it was CC messing with the recorder and things like that. And they were really, really, people was talking about them like they were pure trash, because that's what they were saying. But what was they supposed to say? What could they say? If they said one word about the case or the plea deal, then they're going to pull them out. If you'll notice, you can see somebody standing behind them when they're talking. That is Chris's defense team. Chris's defense team is the one that made them not say a word to him. They're the one that set up the meeting. I mean, that's some of the things people don't know. And that's why I thought that one clip of Chris, what he was saying right there, was so very important. That's another reason, in my opinion, that he took the plea deal. We all know he's a wimp, right? Well, he's being told he's got a hit and people's trying to kill him. And either way, you're going to a Colorado system because you did confess to killing Shanann at least. So you're going, whether you like it or not. So the only way that we're going to go with this plea deal here and get you the hell out of Colorado is if you confess to killing every damn body. One, to clear Shanann's name, of course, because you said she did it. That's it. That's the only one we're giving you. Other than that, you're getting the death penalty and you're staying in Colorado. I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. And Dave will be back in a minute, y'all. I'm sure it's StreamYard messing with him again, but I didn't mean to get off on that tangent there, but I thought that was important. I mean, there's 93 people here, and I know there's some out there that's disagreeing like hell with me. That's not in the chat, but that's okay. You can. I respect that, but don't come at me and call me a liar because it's right there. There's the proof.
Family under these circumstances. It's been a pleasure working with them and meeting them and knowing them. I believe so. That's a conversation that we started when they flew in yesterday, and I'm going to give them some time to thoughtfully decide how they want to proceed with sentencing. So if they don't, Mr. Roach, Mr. Wren, and I will be happy to speak on their behalf.
To see him?
No.
We got to see him one time. That was that Monday right before the plea deal. That Monday
Right
night.
before the plea deal, and that was it.
These are the parents of Chris Watts, the man who pled guilty to killing his pregnant wife, Shanann, and 2 kids, Bella and Celeste.
How did he kill her? How did he say he did it when he snapped?
He said he did the same thing that she did to him, that she did to the girls.
Frustrated with his attorneys here? Are you guys frustrated with the direction they may have put him through?
Yes, I am. I am absolutely frustrated.
We contacted his public defender, but they declined to comment.
Do you guys think he was coerced at all?
I don't know. He saved his life and life in prison. To me, there's no difference. You know, he's going to die in prison, and there's no telling what will be done to him in prison. And I just want him to fight. I want this plea. I want him to not take this plea deal. I want him to plead not guilty to the children.
After this interview, the Watts are looking into different legal avenues, even looking at another attorney in Denver to take their son's case. But there's been some reaction about all this from Shanann's family.
Are you guys worried about some of the backlash about maybe coming out and speaking on behalf of Chris and what it might do to your guys' relationship, and speaking out like this about a woman who can't defend herself right now?
Well, Shanann, I mean, you have to get to know her to be around her. Put it that way.
Her memory and reputation deserves to be protected, and her family is fully prepared to do so.
I just want to make sure he's doing the right thing.
Yes.
I mean, if he does it, if he didn't kill the children, I want him to say so. And let them prove it.
I spoke to a longtime friend of both Shanann and Chris who saw the interview. Out of respect of the families, he didn't want to do an on-camera interview, but said both families are hurting and just hope for the family's sake that Chris doesn't continue to fight this and go to trial.
I didn't want them just to save his life or to life in prison. I wanted them to have a defense. There was a defense there because we didn't know about the plea deal. We were not allowed to talk to him about it.
They're frustrated because they say his attorneys wouldn't let them ask him anything about the case before the plea.
I asked Chris, if you did not do this, do not confess to something you didn't do. And she shut me down. She completely shut me down.
And just like everyone else, his parents have a lot of questions after he confessed to killing Shanann, claiming he saw her strangle one of the kids.
She said, I'm sorry. I went into a rage and I killed her. And he said, I am so sorry.
And so instead of putting the girls with her, he decided to put them into
The oil tank, which
an oil tank?
I still don't understand.
I don't understand that either. He's not a sociopath. He's not a psychopath.
A question his parents have is, what was the trigger to cause all this to happen?
He just said he wasn't in love with her anymore, he said.
Because both Shanann's family and Chris's family are in pain, his parents just want the truth about what happened.
If this actually happened like they're saying that it did, that he killed them, then what was the trigger?
If he didn't kill the children, I want him to say so. Then let them prove it.
They're just pleading for the truth from their son.
There's a whole lot of unanswered questions about the case, how everything happened too quick there. From a case status thing to a plea.
If he's saying you didn't kill the kids, why do this plea deal?
I have no idea.
The only reason I can think of, he's trying to for our family and her family not to have to go through a trial, long drawn out trial.
It has been so overwhelming, and I feel like I have to do something to help my son. I need to do something. If he's not going to fight, I want to fight for him.
He pled guilty straight up to all 9 counts in the complaint and information. So he's got first degree murder count 1, first degree murder count 1, murder in the first degree count 3. They dismissed count 4. He pled guilty to that one as well. First degree murder. He pled guilty to tampering as well as unlawful termination of a pregnancy. So Mr. Watts pled guilty. What's the big deal? He pled guilty 1 count of murder. Here in the state of Colorado, that is life without parole. What does life without parole mean? It truly means life without parole. He will never get out of prison. Was he an honorable man, or was he just a wimp? And the question was, did he really get anything in exchange for that? Any attorney could sit there and basically get the same result that he got by pleading guilty by simply showing up. He got no bargain, in my opinion. And the reason is the death penalty, although on the books, is effectively dead here in the state of Colorado. So it would be very unlikely, even if after 20 years of appeals, that Mr. Watts would ever be sentenced to death, even assuming that was the case. And if a district attorney came to me with the offer of plead guilty, open sentence, I'd say, prove it. You can go to trial. Prove it, each and every element of that charge, beyond a reasonable doubt, unanimously for a jury of 12. My client's not going to do something unless we're going to get something in exchange for. Mr. Watts muddled and stated that she has questions about the plea. This is same questions that basically we were asking here, is simply what did his attorneys accomplish in the time from this case began to the time that he entered a plea? I'm just surprised at how quickly this case transpired from the beginning to the time of plea. We weren't even at a preliminary hearing yet, okay? I've seen DUI cases take longer to resolve than this particular case. And this is a case where literally they were looking at the death penalty. Someone spending the rest of their life in prison. You usually get a little more due process than you do on your run-of-the-mill type of case. And so I'm not saying they did a poor job. I'm just simply saying I'd like to see what they did. And that's what Mr. Watts' mother has been asking on TV. What did they do? She questions why she wasn't able to spend more time with her son doing that. And apparently his attorney didn't want Mr. Watts to talk to her about the case. Mr. Watts apparently told the police that he had, in fact, killed Shanann when he observed her killing his daughters and that he just lost it. All right. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's what is in the affidavit for the arrest warrant. So is there a defense at the death of his children? Yes, there would be. And as to Shanann, yes, he says he killed her. But then the question then becomes, was it after deliberation? Was it second degree murder, heat of passion? Who knows? Maybe it was criminally negligent manslaughter. Maybe he didn't mean to. He just tried to subdue her. Who knows? But there's lesser included offenses from first degree murder. Now, he would still not have much of a defense as it relates to tampering with the evidence because he obviously picked up the bodies and then tried to dispose of them. How could that be explained? Who knows? Maybe just he realized what had taken place and he panicked and figured no one would believe him, and that was it. Okay? Now, the question is did his attorney say, hey, they're willing to take death off the table, you should consider it, but let's be frank and honest, Colorado hasn't really put anybody to death in a long time. They're not going to. There's nothing to say whether his attorneys were ineffective. And frankly, I'm not going to say that his attorneys weren't effective. The only thing I've ever questioned was how rapidly this case was resolved.
His mom, though, is questioning the deal that will help him avoid the death penalty. She wants him to fight.
Why he's pleading guilty. I wouldn't. I'd fight. I'd fight to the end. I mean, I need to know.
Sitting in the North Carolina home where she and her husband Ronnie raised their son Chris, struggling to understand the murders of his pregnant wife and 2 daughters.
Okay, this is at the middle school. There he is here. He was a good kid.
Chris became an auto technician and in 2011 met Shanann Ruszczyk. The couple's daughters were pure joy.
Oh, Bella was just like Chris. Cece was a ball of fire.
By summer, Shanann was pregnant with a boy, but Cindy says Chris told his parents the couple was considering divorce. Then came the disappearance of Shanann, Bella, and Cece. Chris's assertion that Shanann killed the children and that he murdered her in a rage, then buried his wife in a shallow grave and dumped the girls' bodies in oil storage tanks. What would you say to Shanann's family if you talked to them?
God, I'm so sorry this happened. They lost a daughter. We lost our son. We lost our grandchildren. We all lost. Everybody did.
Now she sits at home, wondering if her son really killed his wife and children.
I wake up every morning just crying, thinking this is not going to be what's going to happen every single day. It's just so hard to get through it. I just don't know how to get through it.
And still, no answers. Have you reconciled the idea that he could have done all of this?
Yes. And that scares me to death. It scares me to death to think that he could have done all of this. But then you ask yourself, would a normal person dispose of the bodies the way you did?
Cindy Watts says her son's attorneys prevented her and her husband from having any input on this plea deal. She thinks she's lost the one chance she had to get answers in this case, a trial. Now, we called the Weld County DA today. He declined to comment. We also tried to reach Chris's attorneys. We haven't heard back.
And it completely contradicts what he told the police in his first statement to them, where he said that the children were killed by Shanann. So they wanted that. My guess is they probably wanted that for the family so that they could have peace of mind that their daughter did nothing to harm her children. From people who have asked me about the plea. I wish I was there. Cameras weren't permitted in there hearing, because I have heard reports. Is it true that one, Watts cried, and two, that his attorneys were pressuring him or in some way trying to get him to admit counts 2 and 3, the murders of Bella and Celeste? Why anyone is agreeing to dispose of this evidence is beyond me. He hasn't had a whole lot of time to think about it. He may say, you know what, I didn't do this. I didn't kill the children. I'm going to come with a defense. I was crazy. So over the course of a lifetime, he has an unlimited amount of time in this particular case, because it is a class 1 felony, first degree murder, to basically file what they call a 35C. And that is basically to allege that his attorneys were ineffective and that they didn't do what they should have done for this particular case. And why is that significant? Because here, everyone's agreeing to destroy the evidence. Did Mr. Watts get punked? All right, let's face it. The plea agreement says that the DA agrees not to pursue the death penalty based upon his plea to all 9 counts. The DA says that he went to the family of Shanann Watts and talked with them about whether they wanted to be involved in this case for the next 25 years if the death penalty is pursued. The district attorney, Mr. Rourke, also made comments that it's very unlikely that the death penalty will ever be imposed in this case. All right. So I'm not really sure why this plea deal was sought so quickly. Given the video evidence that I've seen on Facebook about Shanann's conduct, the treatment of him, I mean, there are so many things that could have been done to present a defense for Mr. Watts. Understand, I'm not trying to defend him. I'm not trying to say that Shanann Watts did anything wrong. Frankly, I don't know. But as an attorney who would have been charged with representing Mr. Watts, I cannot believe that basically over the course of a month and a half, the public defenders decided that they could do mitigation on a potential death penalty case, do a factual investigation, and do that. Hopefully, they documented their file absolutely, completely, thoroughly, that they were seeking this plea disposition at his behest, and that they advised him that it is against his best interest to do that. So this case will linger for years because I think there's so many unanswered questions, and the fact that it has not been given basically a complete vetting in not only the court of public opinion, but the trial court. It shocks me that it resolved so quickly, given the lack of time. Very rarely would anyone plead guilty. We hadn't even been to the preliminary hearing stage where we would have received more information. The defense could have used it as a discovery tool to develop theories. It's absolutely flabbergasting to me. And the fact that everybody knows here in Colorado that the death penalty, pretty unlikely that it would ever be imposed. Chris Watts got punked. I'm just saying, I think he got played by the DAs and possibly even the attorneys that were concerned that they were going to deal with the death penalty. I don't think it was really an option in the end. Today, we want to talk about, once again, the Chris Watts case that late last week, the defense for Mr. Watts filed a motion. They're asking that this be filed under seal, and only the people that would have access to it would be basically the court, his staff, and the defense attorneys. Maybe Mr. Watts' attorneys don't want the prosecution to know about it. Additionally, they want an ex parte hearing. An ex parte hearing would be only the defense would be available.
Okay, y'all. Now this, I'm going to be ending it after he says this, and it's a very short little clip. I'm going to be ending the clips I have, and we're going to watch the rest of them tomorrow night. But what he's about to say here, very important. Very important. I want you to really take in what he's saying here. What Chris's defense has filed. Okay? This was filed. I have it. I'll show it tomorrow night. This was filed on October the 12th. I'm going to tell you this up front so you can know it when you listen to him. It was filed by his defense October the 12th. It was finally put on the judge's desk, delivered October the 22nd, I believe it was. And then the judge signed it. I think it was, October the 30th. So there's how long it took for the judge to finally sign it. Now, October 30th, right? Think about this. October the 31st is when Rourke and Wren hopped a plane and hauled ass to North Carolina and talked with the Rourkes about this plea deal, okay? Then Rourke got back around the 2nd or 3rd. He stayed there a few days with them. He'll even tell you that. And on October or November the 4th, the very next day, after he got back from North Carolina, they're offering this plea deal or the plea deal's coming around. Chris is signing that plea deal by November the 5th. And so I hope you got all those dates in your mind. Reason I say that is I fully believe that whatever this is that Scott's about to tell you about, the way the timeline adds up, has everything to do with why this plea deal was rushed so damn fast. Very important right here, okay? Also keep in mind of the special thing that's sealed in the plea deal. Remember, a medical record? Nobody knew what the medical record was. Didn't know if it was the kids, didn't know if it was the Shenanigans, didn't know if it was Chris's, but we know that medical records were sealed. That's everybody knows that, right? Keep that in mind, and keep in mind the dates I told you, and listen to what he says right here. Also, another thing to keep in mind is the case and what the case is referring to that they're talking about, that Scott's going to tell you about, the reason they're filing this. Just listen. You'll see what I mean.
Available at the hearing and not the prosecution, and state in their motion that Mr. Watts is concerned that the court may order the pleading be unsealed, and if it does, believe the information in the filing is protected by federal law. Specifically, they're referring to the HIPAA laws. What does the defense possibly have? They cited a couple of cases in support of their proposition for this ex parte holding, and as basically deciding what they should do with this information. And so what I'm speculating, and there's some speculation, but based upon the cases that the defense has cited, they filed this motion, and then late Friday, the court granted an order, I guess, 22nd. It basically said, go ahead and file this information under seal, and the court said that he will then determine whether it needs to be suppressed or whether it should be made available for public viewing. I believe the defense has some type of medical record that belongs to either the children or Shanann that they either obtained through the course of their investigation or somebody gave to them. And then the question is, who gave it, under what circumstances, and is there a waiver? And in fact, they cite to it. Here's the Everson case. It says, noting that attorneys may not disclose attorney-client privileged information even after the privilege holder has died. The fact that the attorneys are seeking guidance from the court as to what they can do with this document, And it sounds like it's obviously protected under HIPAA. So it sounds like it possibly is medically related. You know, the case also that they cited, in that particular case, there was a suicide note. And so they were fighting over, they wanted the note. So it's very curious to see what the defense has obtained and how they obtained it. If it was randomly mailed to them, or if they came across it, or if it was in files that, the family came across when they were cleaning out the house. Who knows? But it's going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, I don't want to repeat it for the simple fact that I don't feel like people coming and attacking me, because they will. But I hope y'all got that. And if you really didn't take it in, then maybe go back and listen to it. But at the same time, the defense found something, okay? Whatever the hell it was, shook the prosecution up like crazy. Shut them the hell up. They jetted straight to North Carolina and came back, and the very next day had Chris signing that plea deal. Okay. Think on that. And I know a lot of the things y'all have seen tonight, you've already you knew. But I do hope some of it made you think about some stuff that maybe you hadn't thought about. That's why I say when I put these together, it does take me a couple of weeks, because I do like to lay it out there and give you something to actually think on from the facts in the case. And yes, it's definitely HIPAA. I have no idea, JoJo. I don't know. The defense found it, and they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how they should present it, right? They asked for it to be sealed, okay, until they could use it in trial. Never went to trial. So it was never brought out. My opinion is whatever that was is what sped up that plea deal. Absolutely accelerated it. Had Chris signing that damn thing as fast as they could. Now, remember what was just heard as well. Chris was told about hits on him. He was told that he would be killed in the Colorado prison system. So when you just sit back and do some critical thinking, emotions aside, and do some critical thinking on everything you've heard here, just within those two little clips, just within what Chris has said and Scott said. I mean, they are the facts, right? Either way, whatever it was, the prosecution also had it sealed in the plea deal. So we will never know what it was. We will never know what it was. However, they are referring to a case that, that's what was left, that note, a S note. And, it is fact. There is people involved in this case that do write a lot. I'm not, I'm just saying, I'm going straight off the facts and using critical thinking. No, I wouldn't think CPS. I wouldn't think that. I think it's much deeper than that. Much deeper. Whatever it was, the prosecution damn sure didn't want it in public eye view. I'll say that. Hell, Scott just told you that. So yeah, y'all think on that. Think about what you've watched tonight. And I've already seen a few say they hadn't even heard about that. So, I mean, that's what I mean. When we do these, a lot of the things that we haven't thought about, and we did, it just kind of went over our heads when we was trying to put the case together originally. When you come back and put it together in bite-sized chunks, it kind of starts, it starts forming more than you even realized it did. But we're going to end this tonight because Dave has an early morning doctor's appointment tomorrow. I have to be doing some things tomorrow, and we're going to try to get started earlier tomorrow night, hopefully around 8 or 9, and finish up our clips. And then that way we'll be able to talk some more. There's a few things I want to show y'all. And so I want to thank you all for being here. Thank all the moderators. Everybody showed up. All the new members. We really appreciate it. Everybody that's just out there listening. Thank you guys. I wish I could just open the chat up for everyone. Just everybody, but I just can't, because every time I do, it never ends well. And I don't like my people to be attacked for their opinions, and I won't have it. So, but I want to thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. And we will see y'all tomorrow night. I hope you're here. And share this video. Share it in your Watts groups, because in my opinion, there's lots of information in these Watts Wednesdays. It sure does take us a long time to put them together. And I am going to be opening up a few a week, public, instead of just members, and leave them that way for a few days, because I like for everybody to get the information, you know, but I do hate it when they're hit. And I just don't like dealing with YouTube that. So, and I'm glad you joined too, JoJo. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Everybody have a really good night, and we will see you all tomorrow night. I hope so. See you then. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much for watching, and do not forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave us a comment below on your thoughts of this video. And until next time, this is UnJustified.